Hey, good day. Welcome to our Real Insights live broadcast today. I'm super excited about the show today. We have a couple really fantastic guests that have just tremendous insight on building a team. So before we get started, I wanted to just give everyone a chance to get online here for a minute. And thank you for joining us. Happy holidays. Hope you can appreciate my Christmas setting, coming to you live from my home. No, it's not my home. But happy holidays to everyone. I was told by our as talented team that I couldn't wear my Christmas hat, but that's okay. So welcome to the call this morning. This is going to be our last show for 2017, and then we've got just a really fantastic lineup of guests and shows starting in 2018. We are excited to have you back and joining us. Today, I'm very excited to introduce my guests. These are two gentlemen who are with Keller Williams currently and really are in different points or similar goals, but a little bit different points in growing their teams. And before we really introduce them and start to learn a little more about their story and where they're at and why they've decided to build a team, I wanted to set the stage just a little bit because I think it's important that we have clarity around our thoughts or my thoughts relative to team building. And I don't think team building is for everyone. And I think in many cases within our company and with our industry, because it's such a big trend right now, that we, to some extent, idolize or put on a podium that this is the only format that we should all be seeking. We all should be trying to build a team. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case. And there's some teams that are absolutely phenomenal with a handful of people that are just crushing it and making a great income. And then there's other teams with 30 or 40 people on it, and they really aren't making enough money for it to make sense. And then there's the single practitioner that absolutely loves what they do, and they don't have really any interest in building a team, and they're crushing it. And I want to just stress before we start today that this isn't a promotion about why you should build a team or that the team model is the only way to go. These two gentlemen have chosen to build a team, and we're going to get into why. But regardless of how you structure your business, there's many, many ways to do it. And it's, I think one of the things I'm hoping to achieve on today's call is if you've thought about it, what are some of the pros and cons that you should be weighing out in your mind before deciding to build a team? And in any regard, your business should be your business, and there's many ways to do it very, very advantageously and successfully. And the team structure happens to be one of those ways to do it. All right. So with that little disclaimer, and as we get started, I wanted to welcome our guest, Nate Poulsen in Davis County, Cameron Burnside in our Salt Lake City office. Gentlemen, welcome to the call.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
So let's start out, if we could, with just a little bit of background. So Cameron, we'll start with you. And if you could just give us, I think people enjoy hearing a little bit about your, an agent story. What were you doing before real estate, and how did you make that transition into real estate, and how long have you been in the business at this point?
Well, it was fairly easy because I was a senior in high school, so didn't have any other work commitments at the time. So I decided to get licensed when I was in high school. You have to be 18 to get licensed. So I made the decision going into my senior year that I wanted to go that direction. So I took all of my classes, got them done in 2 weeks. And then I remember checking out of a fourth period class. I think it was a computer class, and went and took
Cameron, we're struggling with your audio. I think you have an internet problem. So Nate, why don't we jump to you for a minute? I think Cameron was going to try to utilize it back up.
Oh, and after I got licensed.
Okay. I'm going to mute him for a minute while he finds a new internet. This internet thing sometimes is a little tricky. All right, Nate, why don't you give us your history a little bit?
So I started my own company when I was 17 years old. I owned a computer store, and that was my passion at the time. And after high school, I ran the computer store until 2012, I would say, 2013.
So you started the computer store while you were still in high school?
Yes, I was 17. I graduated early and started it when I was 17.
That's awesome.
And so that's where I got my start. And then as, grew older, I get married with the wife and we have a little boy. And at that time, she just wanted to stay at home with the child. And so funds were tight. And so I decided to find a career that I can do on the side while still owning a retail computer store. And that's why I jumped into real estate, just to have the side income, hoping it would work. I really knew nothing about real estate at the time.
So how long did you own the computer store? And for what period of time were you trying to do kind of both at the same time?
So I was 13 years in when I decided to try both at the same time. And so it was 2013 when I decided to get my real estate license.
Got it. Okay. So 2013, you get your real estate license, and share with us just a little bit about what that journey looked like when you were doing both at the same time for a period of time.
It was really hard. I mean, I worked 60 hours a week as it was at my store. And so coming in to another career was really challenging for me. I was working all day long at the computer store, then all evening doing real estate. And I absolutely loved both of them at the time. And it was a good balance for me. But of course, I suffered with the personal time, and I needed to make a decision at that point. I either go full time in the computer store or I go full time in real estate. I couldn't do both anymore. And that's what I did.
So share with us a little bit about that thinking process. Like what were the things that you were weighing out relative to deciding between those two options?
Well, really, I was used at this time to owning my own company, doing my own thing for such a long period of time that I was just ready for a new challenge. I was ready to help people buy and sell real estate. And that was the decision that I went with. I talked to the wife and I wanted her thoughts, and she freaked out on me when I said I want to go full-time real estate, because the computer store is all we've known. That's what paid our bills, and it was a lot of fun. And so she was really nervous, but very supportive, and said, she has my back with whatever I decide. So in 2014, January 1, I sold my business and went full-time as an agent.
Okay. So that's pretty incredible when you think about when people start to understand how much production you're doing for what a short period of time you've actually been in the business. So in 2014, you went full-time into real estate.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about what that journey's looked like since.
It's been crazy. It's been absolutely amazing. I mean, my first year, I believe I closed 12 transactions my first year in real estate. And then the second year, I closed 40 or so. Third year was 134, I believe. And then this year, I'm not exactly sure where I'll end up, but I would say around the same with the team. Yeah,
that's, for anyone that's been in the industry, they know how incredible that is. That's really production that just has grown very, very rapidly. Yes. So it'll be interesting to talk a little bit about what you've experienced during that time. Yes. All right, so I think we've got Cameron back. Let's give, well, maybe not. Cameron's frozen again. All right, it's going to be the Matt Green and Nate Poulsen show today, maybe.
That's all right.
All right, so let's look at, let's evaluate your business just a little bit in the last handful of years, because at some point in I guess the last 12 months, you've decided to really move from solo practitioner to all extents and purposes to building this team.
Yes.
And so, at what point in your business were you really experiencing, so much stress that you said, this isn't worth it for me to try to do it on my own? And, or, what's the vision for saying I need to surround myself with people to help me do this?
So that was last year. That was 2016 when I was a single agent on my own and closing 15 or so transactions a month. And it was really, really hard. And of course, I have 3 young children, and I knew I needed to be a father and a husband first, and then career second. And so that's when I decided last year, but I really didn't know what to do or where to look. I knew I needed help. And January of 2017, so this year, I was still doing it myself on my own. And I finally decided to take the step in April of this year to come to Keller Williams and to start my team, because I just couldn't do it anymore. I was literally working 90, 100-hour weeks. I was exhausted. I love my job, so it made it easier to work that much because I love what I do. But it was just to where there's not enough hours in the day to do what I needed to do.
Yeah, I mean that's almost more than human capacity. What we generally see is most agents start to like really tap out or get just completely overwhelmed at somewhere around 36 to 40 transactions a year. And you're doing 100. Did you have an admin team? Did you have any staff at that point, or was it just you?
No, just me. I had a lady at the old brokerage that would help do my payroll, so I would actually get paid. But other than that, no, I did everything on my own.
It's unbelievable to me you're still standing. That's remarkable.
Thank you.
Okay, so given that, at what point did you just kind of think, well, first of all, why hadn't you hired someone sooner than that? Like, what was the thing that was keeping you from taking the step of bringing on help sooner?
I think that for me, I was hitting the ground running all day, every day. For me to take a step back and really sit down and say, Nate, what do I need for my business right now? How do I do it? How do I implement it? There was just not enough time to do that because I was literally booked from morning until night, almost 7 days a week. And so that was my biggest struggle to taking that step, is I knew I needed help. I knew how important it was to have a life again, but I didn't know how to do it just because I was so busy.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of people that are joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining the show. If you have any questions for Nate as we go, please go ahead and post them below. We're going to definitely try to get to some questions before the end of the call. And if we can, we'll answer some along the way. So Nate, I can't imagine what your personal life must have looked like at that point. Did you have a personal life? I mean, was it starting to create stress on the family and home? I just can't even comprehend doing that many transactions without help.
Yes. I mean, like I said, I have a very supportive wife. It really just came down to, she would bring the kids in the car and she'd go to showings with me. She would sit in the car and let the kids watch a TV show while I go to a showing or two, so we can at least spend some time together. And yeah, it was a toll though. I wanted to be a good father. I wanted to be there for my kids, and especially with my son at his age, he's getting ready to get into sports and extracurricular activities, and I wanted to be involved with that. And there was just no way I could do it without having help. And with that point, I haven't been on vacation at that point in time last year in years. I mean, literally, we would go like a night thing to go out and do something late at night on a Sunday, but we truly did not have a vacation, and that wasn't fair to my wife.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, not awesome that you're recognizing it, right? Not right. That was happening, because I can appreciate that. I think, this is one of the things that a lot of people misunderstand, I think, about Keller Williams as a company, is that, we've largely been recognized for our training for new agents, but in reality, the place that we really shine is the support of top producing people and helping them win back their life. And I've heard this said many times, and Gary Keller actually said this himself, that the thing that he's most passionate about is helping highly, highly productive, top producing agents really start to run their business like a business and regain their personal life, right. and those things. So Cameron, welcome back.
Hey, I wanted to express how well we use technology to build our business and how much we're implementing it, and by leaps and bounds. So sorry about that, guys. We planned on every contingency and it still didn't work, but so sorry for the interruption. So can we start this over again, Matt? Can we?
Yeah, we'll just let everyone know that we're starting over.
They won't mind.
No.
Sorry.
All right, so Nate, we're going to come back to your story.
No problem.
Well, let's play this out just a little bit further before I forget, and then Cameron will jump into your story a little bit.
Okay.
So Nate, at some point, in the not too distant future or past, you decided that you needed to get help. You needed to change in your business, and usually there's a decision we have to make. Either we need to say, okay, I need to be okay with making less money and reducing my hours so that I can have a decent lifestyle, or I still want to make this amount of money and I also want to work less hours. And, generally the decision based on building your decision to build a team, you've chosen to say, hey, I still want to create this income and this opportunity financially for myself, and I want to gain back some of my life and freedom.
Yes.
So assuming that decision was made, we know that decision was made, right? Because this is the path you're on. There's usually some hesitancy around giving up some of those things. And it's either going to be generally tied to, I don't want to give up control. Like I'm a control freak, and I have such a type A personality that I really want to control the outcome, and no one can do it as good as me. So I'm fearful of giving some of those things up. I can't slow down long enough to teach someone else how to do it, or bring someone on. Were there both of those things happening, or either one of those relevant, or is there something else in addition to that?
Absolutely. I mean, I am a control freak. I've owned my own company, done my own thing for more than half my life. So that's, when you look at it in that way, I've never answered to anybody per se, as far as business goes. I've always done what I thought was best, and I had no one to answer to. And so, yeah, control was a big issue. And then, the one thing I never expected when growing a team is how awesome it is to help other agents and people on my team have the life that they want. That was a whole new, just aha for me, that I can help my admin 40-hour week to have a full-time job. I can help a couple buyers agents get the life that they want, and have the life that they want, and have the time off that they want, so we can all help each other. And so that has been probably the most exciting part of the team building for me, is just to give back and help other agents succeed like I have, but to also be rallying around other people and to have that help. Because I was always doing it on my own, and I never really understood or realized how awesome it is for me to be in this position and give back and to help my team members grow.
I love that. That's it's a great aha, and something that sometimes we find by accident as we get into this, where all of a sudden we're like, wow, this is an opportunity where, I was at one point building something about what my goals and aspirations were, and now all of a sudden I see an opportunity to change people's lives. And the bigger my vision is, and the more I develop as a leader, the more I can create opportunity and be influence for good in other people's lives. That's awesome. Absolutely. All right, Cameron, let's jump into your story a little bit.
Better hurry with Cameron before.
Seriously, you got about 5 minutes.
Well, the internet is up. It's awesome.
If you start seeing my phone, I'm just getting tired and my phone goes down like that. So I'll try to keep it steady. So sorry for the motion sickness.
Okay, so Cameron, tell us a little bit. You got like Nathan, actually, started right into business and entrepreneur efforts right in high school. So you got licensed just as you're finishing up school, and then what does that career path look like?
What was the last thing you heard me say before I went down?
Pretty much that, really.
Yeah. So basically what I was saying is that I got licensed as a senior in high school. I served an LDS mission right out of high school, but I knew I wanted to get in real estate. So I served a mission down in Bolivia, came back, and within 2 weeks, I was at the brokerage where I would be at for 9 years.
Okay, so you've been at Keller Williams your entire career at this point?
No, so I started at a brokerage for about 9 years, and about 5 years ago, made the change over to Keller Williams.
Sorry, got it, misunderstood. Yeah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what your business looked like before you changed to Keller Williams then.
Yeah, so I did not, and sorry, I couldn't hear what Nathan's story was, obviously, but I did not start out of the gate really white hot like you hear some agents that just start killing it first couple of years. It took me a long time to feel like I was getting up and generating and getting to a point where I feel like I was making a good living. I remember my first year, I had quite a few of those, I guess, sick to your stomach kind of nights thinking, am I ever going to be able to support a family doing this? Because I just didn't know if I was going to be able to really make anything of essence out of it. And so during that time, well, I started getting up and running, and little by little, I started making more and more until I got to a point where I was doing between 40 and 50 deals each year, but I was doing just about everything as far as all of the things that are involved in the real estate transaction. I was doing it all. So I was kind of felt like a one-man show in that sense. Okay.
So at what point did you really start to feel, I mean, so our experience is generally people start really hitting their limit somewhere around 35 to 45 transactions a year when they're doing it on their own. And then to get beyond that, they've really got to bring on some support and help. At 50 transactions a year, what did your life look like? Are you working crazy hours?
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. In a big
so really
way.
impacting your personal life, those kinds of things.
Yeah, in a big way. And the thing that was really interesting at that time was that I intuitively, I think innately knew that it wasn't the right way to do business. Meaning I was doing a lot of business, which was good, but I felt like, okay, this is not a sustainable model. This is not something that I can duplicate, I can make bigger. And really it came down to, I started looking around and seeing these other agents that were achieving some phenomenal results. And I knew they weren't working more than I was. I knew they weren't probably skilled much more than I was. So I knew that there was a piece that was missing. And I knew there were a lot of opportunities that I had to not be doing the things I was doing. I just didn't have a great way of figuring out how to do that. So I could see kind of from the peripheral, I could see the solution to the problem. I just didn't know how to get there.
Okay. So what action did you take? At what point did you say, I've got to figure this out? And what action did you take?
Well, it was, there are a couple of moments that I can remember really well in my real estate career, but I sat down with Boyd Brown, who a lot of people know, and I had a breakfast with him one day. It was on something completely different. It was on a deal that we were working on. And I just started telling him some of these things. Yeah, I'm doing well in business, but here's some of the struggles. And Boyd has been a friend of mine for a long time. And he just said, you know, there's a better way of doing what you're doing. And so he started introducing me to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book and some of those principles. And from there, I started learning and started understanding. And that was an enormous revelation to me as I started reading through that book, because I remember Gary Keller saying, okay, you've got one of two problems. One, if you either got a conversion problem or you've got a leads problem. And so I started reading through that book and started reading some about some of the models that he incorporated and used and suggested. And I said, okay, I think this is the missing piece. This is what I need to start getting more involved in and start mastering. And so that was really kind of a shift from one point of going, okay, I'm going down a course that's good, but it's not great, to, okay, here is now a path of how I can get to where I've always envisioned myself wanting to go.
Yeah. So really you've reached that point where at that time where, again, you were deciding of one of two things, right? I want to make more money and I want to have my life, you greedy son of a gun.
Yeah.
But really that's the question. And, you know, one of the greatest quotes or models I've ever heard about business development is, you know, it's business development's really just systematically increasing our dollarly rate, our dollar, you know, what we make per hour, basically. And we do that through implementing leverage, and leverage can come in the form of different things, models, systems, technology, right? And people. And as we develop a team, the team aspect is really, we're gaining leverage, allowing us to focus on the things that generate the most amount of income for us on an hourly rate by surrounding ourselves with other people, providing opportunity to them to help them help us, right?
And let me, if I may interject, because to that point, Matt, after that conversation, I spent about a year starting to incorporate some of these models and doing some of the things we were learning about, and I was getting success. But the tipping point to all that was, I remember vividly one day I was sitting in my office and I had a conversation with Josh Stern, who was another amazing Keller Williams agent. And I remember him talking to me about that and saying, Cameron, your problem is that today you're focusing on getting a deal. And he said, the difference between you and me is that that's what you're doing. And I'm focusing on how do I get 5 new deals today? And I thought, wow, how do you focus on getting 5 new deals a day when you're just one person? He says, you don't. You have other people who help you do that. And right after that phone conversation, I remember at the time I was calling a lot of for sale by owners, a lot of expireds. And there are a number of people who have really great businesses and they do that. But I was finding that I was not generating nearly the kind of business that was commensurate with how much time I was putting into those. And so I remember right after that phone conversation, I got off the phone and talked to for sale by owner and pre-qualified her. I was going to go out and talk to her about listing her house that night. And I remember like it were yesterday, when I asked the question, are you interviewing other agents? And she said, yeah, I'm going to be interviewing 5 different agents for the job of selling my house. And I just had a moment where I said, you know what? I've decided this is probably not the best fit. Wish you the best of luck. I canceled that for sale by owner appointment. And I said, okay, from now on, I need to start focusing on those things that other agents are doing to get them more business and start focusing on more what my 20% should be while I'm doing this.
Yeah, nice. I was actually in a meeting yesterday in which Tony DeCello, who many people know is probably the number one coach in our industry, and he said something that really resonated with me. And Cameron, you almost echoed it verbatim. So that's what good company you're in your thinking right now. But he said that in too many cases as agents, we're thinking about our next deal or couple deals rather than thinking about our next 1,000 or 10,000 deals, right?
For sure.
And so, you know, as business developer, as someone that's really building a team, building a business, we have to get into that space where we slow down and think way further down the field than just our next deal. Otherwise, you know, we can wake up one morning and find out that we're kind of on this treadmill, that we're not really building a business. And so that's really insightful. I appreciate you sharing those thoughts with us. So maybe just share with the audience where your business is at now. Like, what kind of transactions are you doing and what's your team structure? You've been with Keller Williams for about 5 years. Is that correct? So in these last 5 years, as you've focused on building a team and implementing some of these things, what does your business look like now? And kind of what does your business life look like now?
Sure, absolutely. And the effects were apparent when the first year I joined Keller Williams. I hired my first assistant about 5 or 6 months into it. Today, right now, there are 4 agents. We had 5 agents up until recently. One of them left the team. We have 4 agents currently today. We are going to close 130 deals this year, and we're going to be probably just about over $30 million as far as GCI goes.
Nice. That's a fantastic business. Congratulations. What does your business life look like today compared to what it looked like 4 or 5 years ago?
It's very different. And I would say the best way to distinguish the differences would be I am spending far more time now working on the business than I was working in the business, which is how I would classify what my activities were back then. So I'm spending a lot more time trying to figure out how do we bring on different talent to the team? How do we help all of us move forward? I'm having much more, I guess I could say, business-esque or business-like kinds of conversations and in situations. I work with a MAPS coach, and it's been years since I last had a conversation of, well, how do I overcome this objection with this seller? My conversations now are revolving around how do I build a business as opposed to how do I become a better real estate practitioner? So I'm spending much more time doing that. And I wouldn't say that I have a lot more free time right now. I just have my time is a lot different, and it's spent in a different way with the purpose or the intention of, in the very near future, allowing myself to have much more free time, personal free time. So it isn't like I've been able to get a lot more time back. I'm just now allocating it differently with intention of being able to, at one point, allocating it however I want.
Great. All right. So let's go back kind of to both of you here for a minute. And I'd like you to think about, and Nate, I think maybe you're newer in this process where Cameron's been working through these things a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see both of your perspectives. But, you know, right out of the gate, what were your first steps that you took relative to building your team, and what were kind of your major missteps? And or Nate, for you, it might be either missteps or what you perceive are your biggest challenges right now in taking that next step towards really, you know, building your team. So Nate, why don't we start with you? Like, either missteps that you've made in your first year or two of trying to build a team. Really, we're kind of just a year into it, right? So first year into building a team, and what do you perceive are your biggest challenges right now? And then it'll be interesting to see how Cameron's juxtaposes that, just to see from the standpoint of, you know, he's going to be looking back in hindsight and might be able to give us some advice.
Well, for me, I've only been doing a team now 8 months. So I'm still a newbie when it comes to having a team. For me, the biggest challenge, the first thing I did when I started my team was I interviewed for an admin. I knew that's the first thing I needed to help keep everything in place. And so that's where I started. The process was the admin. And since then, my biggest challenge so far up to this point is to define roles for each person on my team. That's where I've struggled the most, because remember, I've done everything on my own. I've done hundreds of transactions on my own. And so to bring people on and then to tell them exactly what the role is has been my biggest challenge up to this point. I'm still struggling with it every day, because they come to me as the team leader asking what they need to be doing. And quite honestly, I don't have all the answers yet. We hit the ground running. You know, when I started this team, I was already doing 15 transactions a month. So there's not a lot of time or a lot of spare time, I guess, to teach and do models and systems and put them in place. So that's been my biggest challenge up to this point with my team.
Cameron, does that sound familiar at all?
The bad news, Nate, is that it doesn't necessarily all get itself worked out even 3 or 4 years down the road. I mean, I made a mess of things, and I tried to be as perfect as I could. I tried to get all the answers before I started, and it still resulted in a lot of messes on my end. I screwed up in a lot of ways as far as expectations to have with people, different conversations to be making sure that I was doing, situational things, just like you had said, Nate, where a lot of times people will come to me and say, what do we do here? How do we do this? And I'll say, I don't know. Let's figure it out. I can say the good news is, though, is that there has been a great learning curve where I feel much more confident in a lot of ways, and where I've had to go through a couple different hires in a couple different positions. The great thing is that I do see a lot of progress being made. And so I feel like, okay, great. I now know how to handle that situation. So when it comes up again, I'm not even gonna have to think about it. I already know the answer to it. So it gets a lot easier after you've done it, but there's still always things that you're learning and things that you're screwing up. And I still, to this day, I mean, they're almost on a daily basis, kind of think, man, I wish I would have done that differently, or I'll probably handle that in a different manner the next time it comes up. So you're always learning, but you're always also screwing up.
Right.
I mean, doing is the really the classroom for us, right? I mean, that's the place that we really learn, is in the doing of and making the effort of. So Cameron, what are some of the things that you plugged into that has been beneficial for you from a skills development standpoint, a modeling standpoint, that has helped you in your mastery or growth and development as a leader?
There are several really, really key things, Matt. One is the curriculum and education that's provided by Keller Williams. They have, I mean, I joined Keller Williams almost solely with the idea and understanding of that they are the preeminent company to help build teams. And so you have more resources within an organization. And there are a lot of resources. It's not just Keller Williams. But I found Keller Williams particularly interesting because I knew that they already had these models set up, and I didn't want to go and find somebody else when I knew that this was already an opportunity. They offer so many classes. There's one that's called Career Visioning that a lot of people can plug into. And that is really a crash course in how you can find, hire, train, lead, motivate talent. It's called Career Visioning. And so strongly encourage anybody to check into that, because that's a great class in of itself. And that's a very intense, high level types of conversations that take you step A to step Z as to what you want to do. That's a big thing. Another thing is that they have amazing coaching programs. I just switched over just this last week to a different coach. And this is a coach who is working with Chris Suarez up in Oregon and helping him build an amazing expansion team. So I'm stoked to hear about the things that I can be implementing in my business now to start modeling and following in his pattern. And then also another enormous advantage is that we get exposed to phenomenal agents. I mean, Matt, you and I've come to you with questions, and you've been great about answering questions and helping me understand where you've been and what things you can do. And Keller Williams is replete with those kind of agents. And I think the culture just dictates that. The culture says, you've gone before, now help somebody who's coming behind, because there are still always going to be people who are ahead of you that are going to continue to help you. So I would say the education, the classes, the coaching that's available, and also the other individual agents and teams that you can go to and talk to and just ask any kind of a question, and know you're going to get a straight answer.
Yeah. Awesome. You mentioned several things over the course of the last several minutes. One is the MREA book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. That continues to be really our roadmap for building out a team. And so frequently we see agents make missteps in their first hires simply by not following what we know that works, which has been outlined in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, which is hiring that admin and then another admin. Those are really your first two hires, right? And then it's only after that you start to bring on support and help for buyer's agents, et cetera. But then you mentioned career visioning, and career visioning really for me has been life-changing from the standpoint of, as soon as I recognized once I had a consistent ability to surround myself with highly talented people that were motivated, excited about life, shared my vision, then my world just got significantly more fun, and it changed. And career visioning is something that is, having a business degree myself, I was never taught how to go find and hire talent, and then how to really lead them in those first 90 days to set the expectations, et cetera. And so lacking that training is something I was terrible at early on in my career. I couldn't figure it out, did really poorly. And then as soon as I kind of unlocked the key to that model, all of a sudden my life just blew up. I mean, it just got really, really big because I can consistently find great people and get them on board with the direction I was going in my business life. And that's something that I appreciate you bringing up, because it's something I've committed to attend every single year and have so for the last 9 years. And it really is a part of mastery where I appreciate you recognizing that there's missteps along the way, because we only learn in the doing. And so continually going to that training and developing my skills around those models and then implementing it on a daily basis is really where we learn. And it's easy to get discouraged when you make that first hire and it doesn't work out. And you're like, well, I went to the class and I did it. It didn't work out. Yeah. And that's really not mastery, right? It's doing it over and over again and getting better at it, and recognizing that some of the people before us have done it. And I really appreciate you honoring some of those agents that you've surrounded yourself with, because you've created an environment where you do have the opportunity to brainstorm and talk with other really high producing people that have gone before you that can say, hey, this does work. Just stick with it, learn it, develop it, stick with it, and you're going to figure it out. And that's a really important part of maintaining motivation, is when we, in our mind, can see that it's possible for us. And a lot of times our colleagues who have gone before us can help us maintain that belief so that our motivation stays high. All right. So Nate, as you think about your business, what does your staff and team currently look like?
I have 2 buyer's agents and a full-time admin right now, and I'm bringing on another admin to help, because my admin's obviously a little overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so familiar.
So I'm in the process of relieving some stress from her and bringing another one on the team so that we can dictate roles a little better than we have.
So Cameron, if you were coaching Nate at this point, what advice would you give him in the middle of this?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, Nate, because that's where I was, and we call that out of model in a big way, because that was one of the biggest ahas that I had, is that we had 2 buyer's agents, and that's what the model is, Matt. You referenced this before. Have 2 admin, because as these admin grow and as you grow your team, they can rise to level of the production you have. Where I was just where you were, and my poor assistant Rachel at the time, we were just flooding her, because at one point we had 3 salespeople that were having her support us at the time. So it was out of model in a big way. So if you hadn't said what you said at the end, as far as getting someone in, I would say that is now your number one thing. That's your one thing as far as getting more admin support, because there is only a matter of time before that system will start to break down.
It's such a really important point, because you think about us as leaders, the risk of us not understanding and really committing to the models and understanding models that are successful. The risk is that we burn out our people because we're not leading and running our businesses the way we should. And it's something that I'm very aware of, that I'm trying to be conscious about in, the market centers that I own and the businesses that I own, is, I'm very much metal to the pedal, grow. And if I'm not careful and not really running the business like I should, I can burn out really good people. And it's hard to find great people. Like, once you've got someone good, you want to hang on to them, and you need to be conscious that you can easily do that.
And like you said, Matt, just to go back a little bit, when I was at the other brokerage, I was the leader. I was the number one agent in the company. So everybody looked up to me for support, for advice. And yes, that was great, but I didn't have all the answers. I came to this brokerage surrounded by amazing talent, amazing agents. And it's surprising to me how open and welcoming they have all been to all of us on the team. And so it's just these top producing agents side by side with other agents. It's amazing how much you learn just by being in the same building.
Yeah,
it's a huge difference for us.
Agreed. Okay, so this is a really interesting question, I think, that a lot of people in our industry really struggle with, and that is, why in the world would an agent who's talented be on a team and give half of their commission, sometimes more, to the lead agent or the team? And how would they justify that? How could they possibly think that that's a good idea? So Cameron, why don't we start with you? Because this really is one of the biggest challenges for teams is their ability to communicate their value proposition.
Sure, absolutely. And before I say that, I just want to give a shout out to my team. I didn't have a chance because we've got Rachel, who's our transaction coordinator, Liz, who is our buyer agent, and we have Lindsay, who is our marketing client services director. And they do such an amazing job. And all those things that you were just talking about, as far as us being unrealistic and pedal to the metal, if we're not careful, we can burn out really, really good people to no fault of their own, and it's on us. So I work with some phenomenal women, and I'm really, really blessed to be in business with them. So that's our organization as of today. To your question, Matt, as far as the value add or the benefit, the proposition that we can do there, and I heard you guys say this a little bit earlier, people generally are looking for a couple of different possible things when they're looking at making a change. They're wanting to make more money, they're wanting to do less time at work, or they want to do some kind of a combination of the two. They're wanting to make more money in less time, or the same amount of money in less time. So when I sit down with somebody, or when I start having that conversation, I think the most important thing is to find out, well, what's important for you? What are you trying to accomplish? Because if you have somebody who's wanting to make a lot more money, I'm not going to really focus my conversation around, okay, I'm gonna give you more time. I would say that people, the way I would get people interested in joining an organization would be the fact that join an organization and you will be giving up something. But one of my favorite authors is John Maxwell, and he had a quote once, and he said that if you ever are presented with two choices, one being opportunity and one being money, you take opportunity every single time, because opportunity will lead to more money and much, much more. And he says that's how he's gotten to where he's gotten today. And I found that to be real in my own life. And so when I sit down with individuals and I say, let's think of this through here, assuming you're wanting to make more money and do it in less time, which is a safe bet, think about what a day-to-day situation looks like for you. And Matt, this is something that you taught a couple of years ago, and I still remember it. If I'm a single agent and I'm trying to do everything on my own, there are approximately 180 different things I need to do to make a real estate transaction happen. From going out and doing the marketing, getting the listing, putting it up on MLS, marketing that listing, servicing that listing, dealing with the contract. I mean, people have very little concept as to how much time is involved in our activities. They say that time is the great equalizer. And yet you have some agents that are able to close 200 deals a year, and some agents that are struggling to close 20. Well, what's the difference? It's what they're doing in the time that they have. And so if I sit down with somebody and say, let's think about what your day-to-day looks like. And if you're spending, they say on average, it takes 60 hours to complete a real estate transaction, and all of those different activities that are involved in that real estate transaction, let's figure out what are you good at? What do you like to do? How do you make the highest dollar amount? And then let's focus you on doing that. So one of the greatest value propositions we can give is to say, I'm going to give you one of the greatest gifts you'll ever get. And that's time. You're going to be able to spend your time doing what you're good at. We're going to take away all of your marketing responsibilities, all of the administrative responsibilities. We're going to take away so many of these activities that then allow you to generate more business. And eventually you're going to get to a point where you're spending more and more of your time doing what you're good at, that you're naturally going to start building up more and more and more income, even though you're sharing that with us. Together, everyone achieves more is the acronym for team. And I think that's very, very relevant in this type of a business. So we say, we're going to be able to show you the way to do this. We're going to provide mentorship. We're going to provide training. We're going to provide accountability. And at the end of the day, you are going to do so much more business with us helping you do these things. You're going to make more money. And an added benefit to that is that you're going to be doing the things that you like. So if you don't like going out and taking listings, great, we'll help you with that. You can focus on spending time with the buyers, or you don't like working with the buyers, so let's help you figure out how to spend more time working with the listings. And so we give people those opportunities. And when all is said and done, they'll be making more money doing more of the things that they like. And then there's that opportunity factor too. My idea is to build a big enough world that people can accomplish and do whatever they want to do. And so I think it's really, really important to find out what matters to people and where they want to end up, and then helping them understand that you can be that vehicle to help them get to a place in a much faster way. I started out the business a number of years ago, and as I already mentioned, I did not start out really like a shooting star out of the gate. If I would have joined a team back then that was a really, really great team, I think I would have cut my learning curve probably in half. I think I would have gotten to where I am now so much faster and with so much less stress and making a lot less mistakes, because I've got somebody right there who has a very, very vested interest in me in achieving more. So simple answer is you're going to achieve more and you're going to do it in less time over a long time. And that doesn't happen right out of the gate. That happens over the course of time, but the models have proven that it works.
I think that's right. Well said. Nathan, do you have any thoughts on that? Is that something that you're starting to experience now, 8 months into this, where you're finding yourself or have you thought through already how you're going to articulate what your value proposition is for team members?
Yes, it really is just finding what is important to people and seeing if you can help give them the life that they're looking for. For my team in particular, they want to be able to go on a vacation with their family. And when you're a single agent doing everything on your own, everything, like Cameron just said, there's 80 hours or so in a transaction. There's not a lot of time because you go on vacation and you're still working. Anywhere you go, the phone's in your hand and you're still working. To a degree, we all do that. But you still want to be able to go on a trip, go on a vacation. And so my value proposition for my team has been, we cover each other's backs when you need to go somewhere. If your kid's sick and you can't come to work that day, we'll cover your clients for you. And that way, like you said, you focus on the things that you're good at and you let the admin do all the back end work, and you just go out and do what you love doing and you make money doing it. And for me as a team leader, there's a lot of different ways to do this. For me, I spend a lot of money on marketing, of course, and the money that does come in from my agents, I just turn around and reinvest it back into them. It's not like a lot of people think that team leaders just sit back in a chair and make all this money on their agents, and that's not the case at all. I invest a lot of money, and almost every penny that comes in from my agents' transactions goes back into them one way or another, so that they can have the life they want and they can make money that they want to make.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank you. Hey, in working with teams for years now, nearly a decade and hundreds of teams, this is probably the thing that I think many teams fall short on, and is probably the most important thing that we get really clear on, is what is our value proposition as a team to justify being in business with me, right? For a team member to be in business on my team. Am I super, super clear in what that value proposition is? And then do I have a model or method in which to help remind my team of what that value proposition is? Because in some cases, someone gets into business with us, or they get on the team, and they start to forget some of those things that are happening that are a value piece for them. And so in leadership, one of our most important opportunities in skill development as a leader is our ability to help people connect those dots, so that intellectually and emotionally they see, they have those ahas, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's why I'm on this team. And we have to, whether it's in the recruiting process and helping them see the value of joining our team or staying on our team over a long period of time, we have to be very systematic and purposeful about how we communicate those things so that people can see and understand that value. And then when we do that, it allows them, we're not coming from a selfish standpoint, but from a standpoint of, we truly, truly believe that when someone's in business with us, that we are then creating an opportunity for them, and that their life will be better. And if at some point they have a better opportunity, that we're going to celebrate that when they go take that new opportunity. But as long as we really have a belief that their life is going to be better, that we can systematically help them make more per hour, or whatever that is, right? More opportunities, then our leadership development and skill development is critical, that we have that ability to help them have those ahas and make those reconnections where they say, yeah, there's a very, very specific reason why I'm on this team, and I'm clear on what that value is. And I think that's one of the biggest disconnects I see in teams, is when they have a lot of turnover or they're struggling really to get going, is they lack that clarity in what their value proposition is. All right, we only have about 10 minutes left. I'd love for you guys to share anyone that's thinking about building a team. What are some of the books that they should be plugging into, masterminds, events that they should attend, those kinds of things? Cameron, let's start with you. Where would you start pointing someone as far as what are the resources or software applications that you might use to manage your team? Well, let's come back to that, but let's first start with resources for masterminds, classes, books, those kinds of things?
Well, the greatest thing and one of the simplest things that anybody can do, no matter what your budget is to pick up the phone and start calling agents that you know are doing great business. Start talking with them, prepare a list of questions. I mean, resources like this, when you can get on and hear some of the triumphs and the failures of other agents, those are great. So I would say identify several agents that you say, I like that guy's or that girl's business. I want to sit down and talk with that person and say, what are the steps that you took when you were at where I am at right now, so I can figure out how to get there. I think that's an easy way to do it. Beyond that, though, we've already mentioned the MREA book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. That's a phenomenal resource that people should get and should be reading no matter what they're doing. Even if they want to be a single agent, that's fantastic. But they should use that. Keller Williams has great classes, and they're always bringing up more. So go and check out Keller Williams' website. Family Reunion is coming up next year. It's going to be coming in February, and it's selling out fast. And this is not a plug to go and do that. I'm just telling you, you will be hard pressed to find a greater concentration of talent and experience in one location than there. And it's a series of breakout conversations, and they'll have many different types of things that cater to what you're looking at. So if you're saying, I need to figure out a better way to do a lead gen system, I need to do a better way of figuring out how to hire an assistant. I mean, you have all these different breakout sessions. So you can go and sit there and be in front of the best people and learn from them and understand that. And then some of the other classes we've already mentioned before, find out what classes are coming to Salt Lake. And if needs be, it's a hop, skip, and a jump to get to Idaho or to Arizona, and where these classes are being taught. The price of education there, I've heard many people say, Warren Buffett even said, the best investment you can ever make is in yourself. And so it's worth that plane ticket. It's worth that seminar fee to go out there and to surround yourself by people who are doing what you're doing. You don't want to be a pioneer in this business, because they say, Brian Tracy said a definition of a pioneer is someone laying face down on the ground with a back full of arrows, and you don't want to be that. Go figure out what other people have done and talk with them. You don't want to reinvent the wheel in this whole thing. Go out and find the resources, because there's more out there than you could possibly consume.
Yeah. Awesome advice. And before we go to Nate, we do have the Career Visioning 3-day class coming to Salt Lake in 2018. So keep an eye out for that.
Sign up for that.
Yeah. If you're at all thinking about building a team, bringing on an admin person, it is a must attend. All right, Nate, anything that you'd add on to what Cameron shared?
I was thinking exactly what Cameron said. Don't reinvent the wheel. There's no need for it. There's plenty of top producers. There's plenty of resources available to do whatever you want to do in the real estate field. So don't try to be a pioneer and redo everything when there's no reason to.
Yeah, awesome. Scott Hardy just joined us and asked a question. So he says, other than training and admin support, what value do you add as a team that attracts agents to the team? Leads, sources, marketing, etc. So, and I don't know that there's necessarily a wrong or right answer here, but it's more of just a question on what your model is. Because I've seen other teams that don't provide leads that are, very successful, and then some teams that's part of their value proposition. So, gentlemen, what are you doing as part of your addition to your value proposition beyond coaching and support?
Well, as of for us anyway, how many single agents can truly afford or have the savings to properly make a dent in the advertising in this? And so for me, I'm spending thousands of dollars a month on my team to send them leads. Now, it is up to my team to take the training with Keller Williams and to be able to convert those leads. That's on them. But as a team atmosphere, we're handing you the leads, we're paying for the money for the marketing. And from there, you need to take the classes and the training in order to convert those leads. Once again, that's a big expense that a lot of agents struggle with. That is a huge asset for having a team, because essentially the leads will be there. Now it's up to you to convert them and make money.
Such a great point. So often the biggest mistake that an agent makes in their marketing is the lack of consistency.
Yes.
And so they don't fund that on a monthly basis. Therefore, their marketing doesn't get the results that it should. When you join a team, in most every case, they've got their marketing down where it's a consistent budgeted item. It's paid every single month, and it's generating those leads. And it takes away that cyclical nature or failure rate that a lot of agents are having because they're not consistent in their marketing. All right, great. Cameron, how about yourself?
Yeah, I would add to that. No, that was great what you said there, Nate. I would add consistency because of what you just said. As a single agent, some people struggle. We take care of the financial aspect of that. And if you break it down, there's a lot of money that's going out into the mailers and to the client appreciation events and those types of things. So we're covering that. So at an agent, and again, it's so hard. And I went through this myself. As an agent, you start to look at what you're giving up. But if you start to look at it from a financial standpoint and a profit and loss standpoint and say, what is the expense that I have to go through in order to achieve what I want to achieve? We help with that. We take that almost entirely away. There's that, but then there's a consistency standpoint to it as well. You might have the budget, but I know going as an agent myself, I had money at a lot of different times, but I didn't have time to get that marketing piece out, to put that newsletter together, to post those things. Well, I've never been able to post things, so I have someone else do that. But those types of things on social media, we now say, set it and forget it. You know, it's a plug and play kind of a system where going back to, you're not worrying about paying for these things and you're not worrying about doing these things. And both of those are huge. So there's an enormous financial gain at the end, but part of that financial gain comes from the consistency of that marketing that you're doing to people, which then turns into business. Because you can be getting all the money, but if you turn that marketing off, all of a sudden your deals are going to go down dramatically, the number of deals that you're doing. I think there's also a really, really important point, and this is something that's been mentioned by a couple of really, really big producers that I've talked to, is that I think there's also a bit of a misunderstanding, or I know a lot of agents will go to somebody on a team and their expectation is, I'm going to join that team and I'm just going to get spoon-fed all of these deals. And I'm going to sit with that team and I simply just need to wait for those deals to show up.
Huge, big misconception, right?
It's enormous. And the reason why that is such a fallacy is because it goes back to giving a man a fish or teaching him how to fish. My idea is I don't think the best way to serve you is to give you all the business. I think the best way to serve you is to support you and teach you and help you to understand how to do that. You're going to be doing more business eventually. And I think we can do something that's much more duplicatable and predictable long-term. And that doesn't mean we do. We have sign calls and listings and referring out, our deals within our team. But I think there's only a certain amount that will get to. And I think at a certain point, you will run out of good quality leads with people. And I have to be careful how I say this, but my experience is that I've seen that people that join a team with the intent of, I'm going to sit back and wait for the deals. I don't see those relationships working out long-term, because I've talked with agents who have said, I give my agents all of these leads, and then the agents say, well, we can't convert them and we're not doing the business. And so that still becomes a problem. So it goes back to what Nate said, is they've got to get the training in, but they've really got to do their part. And so I feel much more appropriate to say, come in and I will help you get not only more deals, but I'm going to help you learn how to do these deals for yourself, so that this is not something that you're having to worry. What happens when the market shifts and we go through a situation where we're not able to put as much money into the marketing as we can? If we're building our business on the models and the database and our past clients that we're supposed to be doing, my goal, and I've said this to my team, my goal is to build a bulletproof business, a recession-proof business. I want to do something and help them be part of something that we have a big shift coming, and we celebrate and we say, fantastic, this is going to be a great opportunity for us. And I just think that's a problem that a lot of teams get into, is that we're going to join a team and we're going to get the deals and the leads, but we're not going to have to go through that process of learning. I don't see how that's a win-win situation long-term for anybody.
Yeah. So many good points in your comments there. A couple that I want to highlight is, the other thing that agents fail to do, and not only being consistent in their marketing through, budgeting accordingly and paying that fee every month to fund it, but they also lack and struggle with coming up with the ideas of what to do. And when you join a team, most great teams already, like for example, you join my team, that we're going to do 4 client appreciation events, at least big client appreciation events every single year. And we're going to give you all the resources to just step into it and plug into it and get really good results from it. And you don't have to think about that. Like it just happens for you. But the other point that you made, which is so key, I think, Cameron, is that the expectation is that in many cases, people are joining a team because they haven't been successful on their own. Mm-hmm. And that's because the behaviors and activities didn't support what was required to be successful. And so in joining the team, they either are coming because they need help in modifying their behavior to get the results that they want, And if they don't show up with that mindset or understand that there's going to be activities that are required of them, then it doesn't become a win-win. And most teams that I've seen that are successful, there's probably for every lead that or deal that's done because of the efforts of the team, there should be at least one deal done because of the efforts of the team member, right? It's almost this one for one balance, which leads into this great question. Emma McFarland asked this great question, which, by the way, potentially the rookie of the year in the Layton office, Emma McFarland. We'll see. It's coming down close to the wire. She has a big goal here. But one of our absolute stars, new stars in the business, Emma McFarland, has asked the question, what does accountability look like on each of your teams for sales agents? So she's a sales agent, a buyer's agent on Julie Facer's team. Julie and Brett have a great team here in Davis County, and she's on that team. And she's asking, what does the accountability look like for someone on your team on a daily, weekly basis? Nathan, why don't we start with you?
So for me, I don't really have all these answers yet. I'm still learning this as I go. To set the accountability standards and expectations for my team, that's what I'm currently working on. And I told my team to plan on January 1st, 2018, it's go time. We're going to lay out the plan. We're going to lay out the expectations, and we're gonna hold everybody to them. So the accountability right now has been a little tough. Like I said, we're still a fairly new team, but we are coming with big changes soon, and it's going to be implemented here in a couple weeks.
You don't have it all figured out in 8 months? Come on, man.
I don't have it all figured out. And to go back real quick to what Cameron said about being on a team, so many agents look at, what do I get? What do I get? What do I get? And I'm giving half of my commission to my team. You have to look at, what is the team giving you in order to be successful? And you need to look at the bigger picture. Is the team lead could go out and help those clients. If they send you a solid lead, he could have taken 100% of the commission. So what is the team lead giving you with clients, with leads, with training, with all these things? It has to be a win-win for everybody, or a team's not going to work.
Yeah, the conversation can't be about a split. It has to be about what we put in our pocket at the end of the day.
You have to look at the end of the year. That's what matters, is how much money you made, and was your life, did you enjoy it that year?
Yeah. Cameron, how about you? Where are you with implementing accountability with your team?
So I have hidden cameras installed in all of their offices and no, just kidding. So, Nate, just what you were saying is true for myself. I have not perfected that yet. I have learned substantial amount in the last year as to some of the things that have worked and have not worked. Where we're right now is that we're having weekly meetings. Some people refer to these as a 4-on-1 check-in meetings, but what we're wanting to do with those is we're wanting to sit down and say and have them be the ones that are holding themselves accountable and help facilitate those conversations. What was my goal this week? What did I actually accomplish? How do you feel about that? What were some of the roadblocks that you stumbled across? And Matt, you talked about this in the business planning class, making it a very much a business conversation, not an emotional conversation, not, okay, well, what went wrong this week? And so I couldn't accomplish my goal. It's just a matter of, did you accomplish your goal? And if you didn't, how do you accomplish it next week? And what do we do? Because over time, you're going to start seeing some consistency, and you can start, there's some fabulous training. Matt, you recommend this book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. That's a great, great book to learn a whole system. I want to be able to implement that more into my team this next year. And that's one of the focuses with my coach. So that's a really, really key thing. A point that Liz, our buyer's agent, said that she really appreciates and likes the idea of me talking with her each day and saying, how did your prospecting go today? What did you accomplish? What went right? What went wrong? Because she says that at that point, she feels like there's more of a, hey, I need to show up and do this because I'm going to be telling somebody what the production was, what the results were. And then something else I want to implement next year, and we almost started doing this year, but we fell flat on that. And that is, we want to start doing what would be called stand-up meetings or daily huddles. And that's where the whole team gets together. And each day we say, all right, what are the few things that you want to accomplish today? So we can figure out who's trying to accomplish what that day. And we can figure out, okay, is that what we really should be focusing on, or do we need to change our focus elsewhere? So I think sometimes we overcomplicate how the accountability works out. I think you need to make it simple. And I think most important, you need to have something you're actually going to implement, something that's easy to use. Matt, I don't know if you were going to start kind of getting into other conversation, but there's some really, really great tools that you can use as far as with some of your CRMs, your client relationship management tools. You can start looking and seeing which leads you have and when the last time that person was followed up on. And then by taking that information and going to the responsible person and saying, hey, I've noticed you haven't been calling these people. What's going on there? You can start figuring out what's going on. And another really, really big one that has been an enormous breakthrough for us is that Lindsay, our great admin, has put together a numbers tracker for us. And this is something I've struggled with for a really, really long time. But we now finally have a system in place that at any given point, I can look on my computer and with the touch of a button, I can see how many listing appointments I've gone on or how many buyer appointments Liz has gone on, how many deals we've closed. And with our team meetings, we need to start talking about these and saying, guys, we're almost at the end of the first quarter and we have not even gotten close to where we need to be. And I struggled with that, Nate. That was one of my biggest challenges, was having that accountability and really having the data to allow me to hold people accountable. Because if you don't know what people are doing, and if you're not having them track their numbers, numbers are the language of business. And if you don't know what your team is doing at any given time, how in the world can you hold somebody accountable?
Right.
Yeah, great. Some great nuggets. I think one of the things I've learned over the last handful of years is paramount amongst all those things is helping or ensuring that the goals that we're holding someone accountable to are in fact their goals rather than ours. People just can't get emotionally tied and excited about my goals. So it's got to be really a leadership conversation that we're getting clarity with them on what they really want their life and business to look like, together with them creating and setting those goals, so that we then have and ask for permission. Like, if this is really important to you, can we have a conversation, frequently, daily, weekly, whatever that is, that would support you in moving you closer to achieving that goal. And so that's paramount. And then I think second is really creating a environment or culture where accountability isn't perceived as negative. Because I think, the concept of accountability within our culture is just naturally, it's kind of a negative connotation that we have about accountability. And when we think about accountability as really just an accounting for where we're at, what reality is, and think about the scenarios where we want to account for when we've done good. And if we remove those opportunities, what a lost opportunity that is as well, to recognize when someone's knocking it out of the park, we want that opportunity. And just create that environment where accountability is just understanding where we're at so that we can support you in a bigger way in achieving what you've identified as your goals. So, and Cameron, you've referenced some really great tools and models to help support you in building that culture and supporting your people that way. All right, well, we're kind of out of time, but I did want to just maybe finish up one last concept. Cameron, you referenced some software platform. Did you want to get into, or either of you want to share any applications or software that you're using to manage your team and maybe generate leads, anything like that would be of value to finish up our conversation?
We just barely switched over to a new system. And so I really don't have the data to tell you if it's good or not, but up to this point, my admin has created her own Excel spreadsheets and reminders and set it that way. So every single day we know what we need to do. And of course, Google Calendar is my best friend, because I have to block the entire day so that I focus on the things I need to focus on. So right now we're still trying to figure out systems. And as far as the marketing goes and single agents going on a team, how often have you two sent a flyer and received a call 6 months later? And that's the thing about the long term, is when you're on a team, it's not just all about right now. It's what you've done 3 months ago, 6 months ago, will then come full circle back to you.
Awesome. Cameron, you mentioned Untitled. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Untitled is a tool that we use on our team, and it's been a really, really great benefit to us, especially in the project management side or in the transaction side. Rachel, our awesome TC, uses that, and you just have so many things going on at all times during a transaction. And so she uses Untitled to be able to say, all right, did we hit every single thing we need to do? This deadline is coming up, so we need to make sure we have this in place. And do we have this in place, or are we waiting on someone else to do so? Untitled is a fantastic project management tool in the sense that you can keep track of so many different things. And it's particularly useful the transaction coordinating role, but you could really use it for just about anything, as far as we need to figure out what our marketing plan is and start putting all those pieces together. So it's a great tool. I haven't used it almost at all, but our team uses it a ton. I couldn't even tell you how to use it, but I know we use it a lot.
I'm seeing a theme here, Cameron.
Big theme.
But which is critical in developing your team, is being able to recognize that there's other people that do these things better than you, right? Surrounding yourself and then giving up the control to allow them to do it. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your time.
Thank you.
Very generous of you. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you afterwards?
Go ahead,
Nathan, why don't you go first? Where can people track you down if they want to get in contact with you?
They can find our page on Facebook, the Poulsen Team. Very easy to find. Or it's just nathan@poulsenteam.com. They can send me an email.
And I know you're very active on Facebook and social media, right?
Yeah, so I'm easy to find. Just put in the name and you'll find 5 different ways to get a hold of us.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nate. Cameron?
Yep.
You will not have good luck tracking me down on Facebook. I believe I have a page, but you won't find me. So just call me on my mobile, 801-706-5337. I'm happy to answer any questions or talk to anybody about any situations they're dealing with.
Awesome. You guys are very generous. Thank you again for your time. You guys, that's our show for today. Appreciate you joining us on Real Insights Live. Many great episodes coming up in 2018. Look forward to joining you again at that time. And of course, Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and peace, love, and productivity, right? Okay, productivity. All right, Cameron, don't make fun of me. All right, have a great day, guys. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.